Το όνομά μου είναι KATERINA HANTZANDREOU. Γεννήθηκα στο Wilmington, Delaware. Μεγάλωσα στο Queens, New York. Οι γονείς μου είναι από την Άφακτο. Ο πατέρας μου ήρθε στην Αμερική το 1970 και η μητέρα μου ήρθε το 1979. Ο πατέρας μου ήρθε εδώ 23 χρονών και όπως like many other immigrants in search for a better life. And as a result of that, typically when you choose to relocate, you want to find someone of comfort, a familiar face, and he had a brother and a sister who were living in Wilmington, and that's why he settled there.
So the brother came here earlier than your father?
Yes, much earlier, in the 60s. I went to public school my entire life. My parents were very big believers in the public school system. And after graduating from high school, I am very proud to say that I have graduated from 3 CUNY schools and I currently hold 4 degrees. I'm an adjunct lecturer, Department of Sociology at Queens College. I am in the process of completing my 4th year, and I am very happy to say that I have found a point in my life where I have never experienced such great satisfaction. Yes, I did. My mother enrolled me in Greek school at St. Constantine and St. Helen in Jackson Heights, New York, at the age of 6, I believe it was, where I attended for 7 years. And after completing that, I took the Greek Regents. And when I went to high school, and of course I attended Bryant High School in Long Island City, I took 3 years of Greek there because I found it to be very easy. And if it's appropriate to say, it was the first time in my life where I got to experience what it really means to have Greek blood. Very much so. My parents surrounded me with the Greek language, Greek music, Greek dance, Greek food, Greek, I don't even know what else there is, Greek culture, Greek history. And when I was a child, of course, I used to sit there and say, okay, enough Greek, no more. But as I got older, I understood the importance. My sister is 7 years younger than myself, and when we communicate, it's usually 70% English, 30% Greek, so we definitely have the back and forth going on. Because my father is a little older, he's in his mid-60s, I tend to communicate with him primarily in Greek. My mother, I would say it's 50-50.
But definitely you spoke the language sometimes, most of the times less, in the household. The Greek language was part of your everyday life.
Of course. Even the Greek newspaper, the Greek news. I have never actually lived in a Greek-based community, even when my parents came to New York in 1985. At the time, Astoria was the place to live if you happen to have Greek blood, and both of them said they would prefer to not live in that type of community. They wanted to assimilate into mainstream American culture, and we resided in Woodside. And after a few years, they moved to Maspeth, and we've been there ever since. Our community is made up of European Americans and Asian Americans, to be precise. But we are not far from Astoria. It's just 3 miles, and we definitely go to Astoria probably 3 to 4 times a week. So we are surrounded by a Greek vibe. I have been to Greece 4 times, and I have seen Nafakto, where my parents are from. I have explored Athens, which I think is beautiful beyond words. I have been to Kerkera and Kefalonia, among other places. I have not been to Greece in 10 years, which I know seems very bizarre to most Greek Americans because it's ritualistic for them to go annually. But my parents are very big believers in exploring other cultures. So every year we do tend to travel, and we like to see other parts of the world. Honestly, I don't see myself living anywhere outside of the United States. Honestly, I don't even think I can live outside of New York City. I take a lot of pride in where my parents come from, and I love visiting the country in which they were born and raised. But I am American born and raised, and just having the Greek blood and having been exposed to the culture, I believe I can pass it on to my children one day if I have them. I think I was able to mesh pretty well with my classmates because we all came, for the most part, from homes where our parents hailed from other parts of the world, and we had that commonality. So even though they weren't necessarily Greek by ethnicity, we had that understanding that we are American, but our parents come from fill in the blank, whichever country, and that brought us closer together because we all had an ethnic pride. My name has always been KATERINA HANTZANDREOU, and the funny thing is, when I introduce myself to people from the time that I was 5 up until now, I always say my name is Katerina. And many people have stopped and requested why I never anglicized it to Kathy or Catherine, and my response is always the same. It has an ethnic touch, and I love my name, so I don't see the reason to change it. I will admit, when I was younger, I questioned my father why he never anglicized our last name, because I have an uncle who changed the name from Hantzandreu to Andrews. And he did that for the security of his children so they wouldn't experience discrimination. And my father said, you know what, I understand what my brother did, but I wanted to keep our last name, and one way or another, people would see that it's unique. And I see that now. I have a diverse body of friends, but my closest friend is actually Greek American like myself. Her parents came here from the old country, and she herself went to Greek school, and we actually communicate in Greek more so than in English, which I find rather fascinating since we were both born and raised in this country. I have to say, yes, there's a slight expectation. I don't want to sit here and say that I'm being forced into it, but because my parents are from Greece, they understand the importance of maintaining our culture, and they're under the impression that we can do that best if we marry a Greek American. And I have dated Greek Americans. When my students question what my background is, because of course they see a very different name, it's not Mary Smith, I always respond by saying I am American by nationality, Greek by ethnicity. Astoria for me is a place of comfort. I come across people who are from various parts of Queens, New Jersey, Long Island, and we all have parents, or most of us have parents who are from Greece, and we have this connection. We walk into a cafe, and we know these are our quote-unquote people. We have a commonality, and it brings us closer together that even if we don't know each other directly, indirectly, we are a family. Years ago, I was part of Goya, and then I was part of Yale through my church. I can't say that I'm part of an organization now, but I do go to church, which I consider to be an organization, because that in and of itself is a family to me, because you get to know the people who go to that house of worship. I've never had any help, actually. That's a very interesting question. I always did things on my own terms. My parents took care of my tuition, fortunately. I never applied for any grants or scholarships, so I've never actually attempted to receive anything from any organization. Oh, absolutely, especially when I travel throughout the United States. If I come across someone who happens to be Greek by ethnicity like myself, or even partially, it doesn't make a difference. We have, I believe, common ground, and we automatically begin a socialization process, and we start talking about what we've experienced and what we've been exposed to, and it brings us closer together. And I think that applies to all ethnic groups, of course. I myself do not belong to a social network. However, many people are members with eligiblegreeks.com, which I think is a very interesting website to find fellow Greeks from around the world to connect with, possibly even date, through Facebook, through LinkedIn. And I do view certain people's profiles. I just don't belong to any of them because I like the face-to-face interaction. I like to meet people on my own.
But you think that those organizations, they have a lot of members? I mean, there are a lot of people there?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, many. And I think a lot of times those websites are meant to allow for people to reconnect, not so much meet new individuals. Oh, I do. I do, especially with my cousins in Greece because I have three first cousins who live in Athens. And although they all speak English very well, sometimes I feel the need to communicate with them in Greek because that's where they live and I know that's their comfort language. My father buys the Greek newspaper every single day. I always grab it so I can read what's going on in Greece and abroad. The Greek news, of course. So I am exposed to the language in the written form. Without a question of a doubt. I firmly believe, and I'm not saying this because I am Greek by ethnicity, I have seen how strong our ethnic group is, and I don't believe it's going to die anytime soon. The next generation, I think, will be just as strong. I think a lot of Greek Americans understand the importance of culture more so when they have their own children, and that, of course, impacts the child, him or herself. And we are very, very strong. We take a lot of pride in who we are, so it will definitely continue. Oh, of course, absolutely. And like you said, diners, we understand stereotypically are owned by Greeks or Greek Americans. And then you have other places that I personally enjoy, like Kyklades or Stamatis in Astoria. And then you have the high-end restaurants like Amos and other places in Manhattan, which not only Greek Americans enjoy, you have people of various ethnic backgrounds that go there and they start to appreciate our cultural cuisine. And it will survive. A lot of us do enjoy the food. We come from families where our parents are big believers in, yes, eating American food, but also giving us an understanding of what our cuisine is all about. I would like to. I would like to because even though I'm Greek by ethnicity, having been born and raised in the United States, it would be wrong on my part to say I understand what the Greeks are like in Greece, never having lived there. So to explore how they are and what our similarities and clearly differences are would be a very fascinating experience.
But you're not aware that those kind of organizations exist. Are you aware of any?
I am not. What makes me a Greek? A lot of things make me Greek. I think my appearance makes me Greek. My name makes me Greek. My family makes me Greek. The fact that I take pride in where my parents are from definitely makes me Greek. I was part of the Miss Greek Independence pageant in 2001 and I did not win. However, I did receive a sash and I was named Miss Nafaktos and I was the first Miss Nafaktos through that pageant. So I feel as though I hold a special title through them.
This is fantastic. And also, you learn in the Greek schools the traditional dances
Oh,
and
yes.
the music.
And the costumes. I remember putting those on and going to Greek school and the pimata 3 or 4 times a year. Oh, absolutely. I did everything that most Greek American children have experienced. I think the Greek American community is very, very strong. And what I have a lot of respect for is that people like my parents who came from the old country worked very hard to provide a better life for their children. And I have seen that through I don't even know how many people. And as a result of that, we had a more relaxed upbringing. It's like we struggled to give you a better life, and we're giving you the opportunity to go to school and become educated and make something of yourselves. And we have a lot of respect for our parents for that. And I believe that we're going to continue that with our children one day. We really didn't have anything ethnic in our rooms other than a classic stavro, of course, because we are Greek Orthodox, and of course Greek music. And my personal favorite artist currently is Panos Kiamos. I love him. I think he's great. I blast him in my car when I drive down neighborhoods. Of course, during the day, I don't disrespect neighborhoods at night. My music is loud. Inside my house, I play that music. So that was always our connection. We love Greek music. I think so. I do believe because unfortunately Greece and other countries are experiencing a huge economic crisis, we will see many younger Greeks in their 20s and 30s coming to the United States, possibly even other countries. And I think we would welcome them because, you know what, somebody welcomed our parents back when they came. And you have to show them support because people relocate for a specific reason and it is in search for a better life. I think as an end note, it's important for people to understand that we all have an ethnic background, and in order for that to survive, you have to teach your children the importance of language and food and history so it can move on from one generation to the next.